Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're exploring the staggering realities of our global economy and, uncovering those hidden mechanisms that basically run our daily lives. Okay, let's dive into this. Over the past century, we've built an absolutely incredible industrial machine. I mean, we've managed to maximize production, boost efficiency to levels our ancestors couldn't have imagined, and generate massive financial returns. But as we're going to see today, all of that success has come with a hidden, rapidly compounding cost, a cost that we are really only just beginning to fully understand.
So, it all boils down to the ultimate, urgent question of our modern era. Can infinite profit exist on a finite planet? Right now, if you look at how our entire global supply chain operates, it assumes the answer is a resounding yes. We treat the Earth as if it's this endless, boundless vault of resources, just an infinite ATM. But physics, biology, and basic math? Yeah, they tell us a wildly different story. We are running headfirst into the physical limits of the exact ecosystem that literally keeps us alive.
To figure out why we're hitting this wall at full speed, we have to look under the hood at the engine driving it all, the linear economy. Now, the concept is shockingly simple, but man, is it profoundly destructive. Here's how it works. We take natural resources, we make products out of them, and then, after a remarkably short lifespan, we simply dispose of them as waste. Take, make, dispose. It fundamentally treats the world like there is no tomorrow. There is absolutely no built-in management process for what happens at a product's end of life. We just throw it away. But as we are painfully learning, there is no magical away on a finite planet. And this brilliantly illustrates the core tension we're dealing with. On one side, you have this linear model that is incredibly, ruthlessly efficient at one specific thing, maximizing shareholder profit and financial returns. For a manufacturer, it makes pure economic sense, right? If the cost of digging stuff up is covered by what you sell it for, the system works. But on the flip side, this financial efficiency relies entirely on just completely ignoring environmental realities. The segregation of environmental, social, and economic dimensions creates what experts call ecosystemic dissonance. It's a fancy way of saying the system is broken. The sustainability question isn't just poorly answered here. In a strictly linear model, it is completely absent. Now, when you scale that fatal flaw up to a global level, the numbers become truly astonishing. Since 1980, our global per capita consumption of materials, so what each of us uses, has gone up by 15%. In the last 50 years, total global material use has nearly quadrupled. That means our consumption is actually outpacing our population growth by an incredible 200%. To put that into perspective, just between the Paris Agreement in 2015 and 2021, literally just a 6-year span, our global economy consumed 1.7 planets worth of resources. We dug up an extra 500 billion tons of virgin materials from the Earth. We are essentially borrowing heavily from the future just to pay for today. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it shows that this massive extraction machine is actually incredibly inefficient. Look at the global circularity gap. It sits at 91.4%. I really want to let that sink in for a second. Out of all the economic activity around the globe, only 8.6% is circular or reused. That massive 91.4% slice, that represents extracted materials that simply turn straight into waste. They don't circulate back. We are doing all that damage to the planet to extract these materials, only to throw away over 90% of them. It's wild. Which brings us to part one, the ecological toll, cascading collapse. The cost of all this is compounding fast. 23%. Based on current trends, that is the categorical loss of natural habitats we're projected to experience by the year 2100. Nearly a quarter of the natural world's habitats just erased to feed this take, make, dispose machine. 50%. That is the amount of live coral cover on our reefs that has been completely lost since the 1870s. Half of one of the most vibrant, vital underwater ecosystems on the entire planet, gone. And perhaps most devastatingly of all, 68%. Now, this isn't some projection for the distant future. That is the catastrophic drop in biodiversity that has already happened in just the past 40 years. In the span of a single human generation, this linear economy has driven a near 70% drop in the variety of life on Earth. Let's move to and see how this builds. Part 2, the brink of collapse, looking toward 2050. So, by 2050, the United Nations projects that our world population is going to hit 9.7 billion people. Now, logically, more people means we're going to need more resources, right? But if we keep up our current heavy linear consumption habits, the extra pressure on these non-renewable resources is going to be totally unbearable.
3. That is the number of Earths we will need by 2050 to actually provide the necessary resources to sustain our population if we keep producing and consuming the way we do right now. We will literally need 3 Earths, and obviously we only have one. And honestly, even if we miraculously discovered a couple extra planets worth of resources lying around, just accessing and refining them would require burning so much energy and creating so much pollution that it would trigger a global ecological catastrophe anyway.
So the crucial point is that this ceases to be just an environmental issue. It immediately becomes a human one. We are looking at a very predictable path directly into geopolitical crisis. Step 1. As these finite resources start running dry, they become incredibly rare and therefore incredibly valuable. Step 2. This triggers rampant, massive inequality, where millions suddenly lack fair access to basic survival needs. And step 3. This inevitably results in severe geopolitical tensions and even military takeovers. I mean, we already have tragic historical examples of this, right? Look at the exploitation of minerals, oil, and gas in parts of the Middle East and Africa, where military power is used for financial gain at the ultimate price of social catastrophe. This is what resource scarcity does to a society.
Let's ground this economic data in a very grim human reality. 216 million. According to the World Bank, this is the estimated number of people who will be forced to migrate within and across countries by 2050 simply due to climate change. Over 200 million climate migrants and environmental refugees, and they'll be packing up their lives and moving just to seek out the most basic, fundamental human needs: drinkable water, habitable land, non-toxic breathable air, and fertile soil. The sheer scale of the fallout we're looking at really comes down to this. The aftermath of climate change will trigger further geopolitical tensions and socioeconomic catastrophes. If we don't drastically change how we source, produce, and consume, we're literally looking at the potential collapse of civilizations. And the wild part? This exact warning was actually first modeled and predicted over 50 years ago in the famous Limits to Growth report. We've known about this for a long time. Which brings us to the most vital question of all. Studies show we have less than a decade to reverse the destructive repercussions of this linear economic model. We know for a fact the current system is a one-way track to total depletion. But we also know that alternative frameworks, like the circular economy, offer a very real survival path by designing out waste and keeping resources in circulation. The data is clear, the stakes couldn't be higher, and the timeline is terrifyingly short. We have less than a decade to reverse course. So, will we?